Hello and welcome to the channel. It's another round of the OP09 championships, this being Hokkaido Wave 2. I'm so excited to get into this. We did get teased that this first round is going to be an interesting one. Gavin, one of the official commentators, did tweet about that. I'm so excited. I'm watching this live in this recording. I do not have any insider info as to what it is in here. I am watching the official broadcast on here, and if you want to watch the official broadcast for yourself, feel free to click the link in the description below. In here, I'm just providing my own practice for unofficial English commentary. Hope to someday make the stage alongside them. Miyagi was very interesting last week. If you didn't see on that channel, the playlist is on the channel for that OP09 tournament. We saw a lot of Doflamingo at the beginning of Top Cut, but Rob Lucci determined as the winner in that one, prevailing through all the Doflamingos, and even Marshall D. Teach had a very nice presence. We also saw the emergence of Shanks as well in OP09, and I'm very excited to see what all is in the Top Cut of this tournament. Thank you so much for joining. As we're also waiting for the Top Cut, feel free as well to like, comment, subscribe if you want more of this content in the future. I very much appreciate it. I usually don't get to watch these live because they happen so late, but this one happening much earlier, so we're gonna get into it. And so here's the breakdown of the top 16 that we got going on here. We have 4 Shanks making it into the top 16. Wow, that's actually a ton. And then 4 Teach as well in here. You got 6 Doflamingo predominantly taking the top 16. Probably not a surprise, being the most popular deck, I would say, in the format. The format kind of revolving around that deck. But 4 Shanks, 4 Teach, 1 Nami, and 1 Anel. It's going to be very interesting to see the matchups. We did see in the last tournament, in the Miyagi tournament, we did see a Teach versus Shanks matchup already. So you're curious on that one, go check that out. I wonder if this is going to be Teach versus Nami. Looks like we've got our 2 players here. I think Nami is one of them. It's going to be Nami and Doflamingo. So this is going to be a very interesting game, I think, in this one. A lot of factors around why a lot of people want to hop off Nami, whether that's 8.5 or OP09, is because Dofi Swarm effect is just too much too fast to get around Nami's effects, right? To be able to counter out of all of those swings. So it's going to be interesting, one, to see potentially how this Nami is built. We will show Decklist at the end of this video for both of the leaders. Don't you worry, but I'm going to try my best to give you the best matchup, because I would say that Nami is my #1 most played deck that I have done. So hopefully I give you some good commentary alongside this. I'm going to also be trying to keep track throughout the match, because it's a little bit harder to tell, especially on the stream, how much Nami exactly has left. So I'm going to try my best to give you a good indication on how much is left in deck at pretty much all times. Nami, if you do not know, one of those leaders that is not very well liked, I would say, in the One Piece community, is very different than every other leader in the game. If you run out of cards in the One Piece trading card game, normally in your deck, you lose the game. But with Nami, Nami has a special effect, a special condition that says if Nami runs out of cards in their deck, they win the game. So the idea of this deck is to play defense as much as possible to be able to mill all your cards out of your deck. And it looks like a very interesting hand for Nami to start out in this one. You've got the typical cards of Kaya, Love Love Mellow, Rubber Band, Marguerite as well. But one of the new cards in OP09, which has a lot of people invigorated by the deck again, is this 1-cost Nami, this middle card right there. If you don't know what it is, it has a when attacking of looking at the top 5 and grabbing a blue event and putting it in your hand. So it's just another search, another way to get a card out of the deck, and we're going to see if it's utilized in this game. The Doflamingo player doesn't have a bad hand themselves in this one. They've got a Jinbei, which is a key card in Doflamingo decks. We see a lot of wins and losses determined by the amount of Doflamingos, or I'm sorry, the amount of Jinbeis used at the start of the match. You also got some searching in Sengoku. You've got some restacking in the Perona, and also some other 4-cost options in the Boa and Trafalgar Law. It looks like Nami is going first, so unfortunately will not have the draw for turn. Will start out the game with 40 cards in deck, and we're going to see how it goes. We'll see if they play the Nami down right away first, especially because there is no bounce effects of the Doflamingo right away in the game on a 2 Dawn turn. So if I had to take a guess, yes, this Nami is going to be played right away, and next turn we are going to see this played and swung to be able to search for a 1-cost event. So going to be very interesting, especially how this early one affects it, because as you can maybe see, we only have 1 counter or 2 counter event cards in the hand, one being a 1-cost. But Doflamingo going to start off first with the Sengoku, do a little bit of searching in this one, and most all of your deck is 7 Warlords of the Sea, more than likely, so has plenty of options of what to grab. Going to grab that 4-cost Law right there, and then end off with a Perona. Going to be stacking the deck. Ending with the Perona next is going to be really, really nice, because you're going to see this stack of cards and you're going to be able to do 2 things. One, you're going to be able to determine what you're going to draw for turn, but also you're going to be able to determine what you can play off leader effect, right? A very key component, especially with a Jinbei in hand and going to 4 Dawn. You got to kind of think about what exactly you want to do, right? Do you want to use leader effect and swing at lead, or would you rather just not swing and play the Jinbei? Going to be really interesting to see what happens in this one. I think they put it at the bottom of the deck as they go to 39 cards now for this Nami at 3 Dawn. Is going to be looking to use the Nami first, like I mentioned, has that when attacking, looking at the top 5 for a blue event card. There's no other restrictions on it other than grab a blue event, and with a deck that is primarily blue events, you're going to be finding something more likely than not. Going to potentially be grabbing a Sanji's Pilaf right here. Could be interesting to see if they end up playing the Sanji's Pilaf if they grab it right there. You got a bunch of weenies on board, right? You're only expecting maybe 2 swings, but is just going to go ahead for that white snake, go to 38 cards right there, and then is going to be using the 3, is going to play Marguerite. Marguerite's going to be really nice. Not only is it a blocker, which is not the most primary use in this matchup because there's a lot of bouncing effects of the Doflamingo, the Marguerite has that on play of draw 1. So going down to 37 cards now, we're going to go into the Doflamingo's 4 Dawn turn. So like I mentioned earlier, going to be interesting whether they choose to use the Jinbei right with their 4 Dawn to play 2 characters, or maybe decides to use a top deck effect right here, and that is exactly what's going to be using the 8 and playing down a Boa Hancock. The Boa Hancock's going to be very nice to be able to do a little bit more of restacking, and we already know what that stack is because we ended up putting it on top, so going to be leaving it the same. Is just going to be a 9k swing right there, and getting the block at that point is going to take out that Nami with the baby searchers and 1-drops that they had, which is a very, very good idea in this matchup. You do not want that Nami to attack more than once, just constantly grabbing excellent event cards in the hand. And so is going to be swinging at that Perona, is going to take it out to start the turn, and going to be using 1 to play the Kaya. The Kaya is going to put them down to about 34 cards now. Draw 2 and trash 2, one of the premier cards of this Nami deck, and with 4 Dawn left in this one, we'll see what they do, and they decide to pass. So they did get a little bit of drawing. What you kind of want to do as Nami is do a little bit of drawing every single turn. The deck is much more aggressive now to be able to play cards on your turn and draw on your turn. So especially as you know you're going to mill cards on the defense, being able to do that on the offense has made this deck such a weapon. And so now, though, we're going to go into Doflamingo's 6 Dawn turn. So he is going to be attaching 2, it looks like. Maybe swinging with this Boa. Boa being a 6,000 power character is going to swing 8. And with this 2 Dawn effect, it's going to be the Snake Dance. Snake Dance is going to give 4,000 power to the Nami, putting it at 9 and getting out of that attack. But what more important is it's going to put Kaya back in hand. That way, no way that this Kaya can get bottom decked at all in any form or fashion if it could come in this deck. That Kaya going to be back and safe in hand. You love playing that card right away in the strew of attacks, and it looks like just going to be attaching the rest of the Dawn and swinging another 9 at the Nami. So this is going to be really interesting, especially with the 2 Dawn. Is going to be taking a life at this point, is just going to be a Kaya, which is a nice card to have in hand, although Nami wants to have triggers as they move on into their turn at 33 cards. It was a really interesting to swing 9 at that point as they go ahead and play that Kaya, because it really forced the Nami, okay, you have to either have Gavel or you don't have Gavel. And so information gained there, because a lot of the event cards, especially the 2-cost event cards in this deck, is going to give Nami 4,000 power, but that would only match the Doflamingo swing. So doing a couple Kayas right here and drawing 2 and trashing 2, did find a couple nice cards like the Nami right there. Nami is a nice piece alongside the Love Mellow and more Kayas on the field. So we know that all 4 Kayas now are either on the field or in the hand. Is making an interesting choice, is discarding the Sanji's Pilaf. I think a lot of people would be so curious about, why would you ever trash Sanji's Pilaf, such a good card in this deck? And you would be right, it is a great card. But if you look at the hand, we want the counter events to be able to utilize in this. And Sanji's Pilaf is just so costly in a matchup like this, where so many swings are going to come in. So after trashing the poor Boodle off of that last Kai, about 27 cards in deck, I believe, for the Nami, is going to pass off the turn. Did a ton of drawing in that turn. Drew about 7 cards, I believe, from the draw for turn, and also the 3 Kayas. Still has 4 Dawn up on the field, and with Doflamingo not having rush characters, all you got to do is think about the defense on this turn with the characters on the field. So the Doflamingo starting out with the Jinbei. The Jinbei is going to go ahead, play the Boa. Going to relook at the top 3. I think some of this top 3 is stuff that we don't exactly know about yet, and going to be reordering it. Looks like going to put that Weevil on top, and would probably expect a Doflamingo swing coming in. With the attacks, you're probably going to be able to get around this after fulfilling that bow effect, attaching the 1-2 leader, I believe he is. I don't know if he's officially done it yet, but it is more than likely going to go on the Doflamingo. Gonna see if he wants to swing any more in this one. Looks like he is going to be attaching 4, going to be swinging another 9, and is going to go ahead, use the leader effect, get that Weevil, and draw the card being Perona that we saw put on the next. And so have to defend against this 9, and also potentially a 6 from the Boa blocker. So one thing that you could do in this one, I think you're going to have to potentially take a life in the different situations, right? You've got a Kai in hand, and you've got a couple Love Mellows, which are great, a White Snake and a Rubber Band. But I think taking this one first, this Desert Spada, going to be a draw to trash 1. I think that's just what it's going to have to be, because you can use like the Love Mellow and the White Snake, but you would have to take this Boa swing. Or if you use the other array of stuff as that draw 1, trash 1 happens, Nami goes to 23, you wouldn't be able to defend against both of them, is the point that I'm trying to make. Sorry, it's actually really difficult to try to keep track in the number of cards, as Nami now goes to about 20 cards left. Is going to start off with a Kai. I think this is a pretty good start. Kind of get a gauge of the stuff that you've got in your hand, and going to be using the non-event cards, I think, to trash. I think Boodle is probably always a guarantee to trash. Not really used in this matchup, used more in the black matchups like Rob Lucci because of that on KO effect. And it's just going to pass the turn. Says, you know what? I know I have a ton of swings coming in, so I am just going to sit here with my board, and has a relatively decent hand for the amount of Dawn that they have left, right? I think 8 more Dawn left in this one. You've got a couple White Snakes, which are very, very good to get out of an array of swings in general, but also Love Mellows to be able to continuously draw cards and maybe find a really good fit for that Gavel that you've got in your hand. Remember, with the Gavel, you do have to trash 1 card from your hand outside of that Gavel to get the 4,000 power boost. So 20 cards left is a very interesting spot for the Nami. I wouldn't say that it doesn't mean that Nami has the game at this point, but Nami's definitely not out of the game. So starting out with attaching a Dawn and swinging 7 right here is going to be using the White Snake first. Remember, White Snake is an event, gives you 1000 power, but it gives you that 1000 power for the rest of the turn. So Nami right now with those 2 White Snakes is a 7000 power leader, is going to have to decide with the rest of this what they want to do. And White Snake is a super interesting card to me, in my opinion, because with those 2 White Snakes, and it's still going to be taking the life right here, does not want to give up anything else, decides not to use the White Snake trigger of reordering the top 5, so still took that swing with 2 life left. Definitely a difficult matchup for the Nami, if I had to say so myself as a Nami enthusiast. But thinking about attaching 4 and swinging 9 again with the Doflamingo is 2000 power higher than the Nami leader right now, so potentially going to be using a gavel at this point to be able to get out of this swing. Looks like they're actually going to be using 2, going to use the White Snake again to draw another card. Does find an OP, so an OP trashing that would get out of the attack, as you see, because you would get to 10,000 power. Now being an 8,000 power leader, gonna have to do a little bit of math on the Dawn to be able to swing with these different characters, and with 2 gavels in hand could get out of the rest of the swing. So going to be attaching the rest of the 5, swinging 11 is going to be that gavel right there. Trashing the other gavel is going to put the Nami down to 15 life as you get out of that swing. And with Sanji's Pilaf in the hand, might go ahead and go with a Pilaf in this turn. Could be nice, and is going to be able to do that, drawing for turn, going to 14 and then going to about 12, I think, on that Sanji's Pilaf. Is going to have 7 Dawn left to work with in this one, as you see the cat on my screen right now. Morticia, I'm going to need you to get off of this, please. And so we continue in about 12 cards. As I said again, this is a very crucial part in the game, because you may think 12, oh, that's very scary, Nami might have this in the bag. I will say, with all of the characters and all the swings that are left on the field, it's definitely anybody's game at this point. We do see off the Sanji's Pilaf, though, that a Rush Usopp is in the hand, and is a very interesting hand at this point. Has a couple different counter cards in terms of characters that have counter on them that they can use. That Usopp actually not being a card that has counter on it. My mistake. I thought I had a 1k counter. Turns out it does not. It is a brick in hand, so kind of beating yourself up potentially a little bit, not saying being that other gavel, because that Usopp is going to cause a little bit of trouble in the hand for your Love Mellow draws. So starting off the turn, this Doflamingo is going to be swinging 9 at lead, is going to start off with the 2k and then use the Snake Dance. The Snake Dance is going to put the Nami up to 11 and pick up the Kaya. Going to be pretty much a guaranteed draw 2 into the next turn, and so is going to be swinging another 9 at lead. This Doflamingo player really trying to say to the Nami at this point, okay, you need to be getting out of these attacks. You have to commit multiple counter cards to be able to do this, but with the slew of swings that I have, what is the best option for you? And so with this 9, I would say maybe take this, in my opinion. I don't think this is a bad spot to take. You definitely don't want to draw into another card and then get rid of the Kaya, but not gonna be a trigger or any counter whatsoever. This Marguerite is going to brick up your hand right now and is going to force you to get rid of the Kaya right here. Is devastating, in my opinion, and so is going to be drawing into a rubber band, which is nice, but again, the hand absolutely bricked up. So 2 more swings potentially coming in is going to fit nicely with a Love Mellow and an Usopp's rubber band. As you're the Doflamingo player, though, you see a Kaya get pitched, the coveted card in the deck, and you think, should I continue swinging? Is he actually going to be able to get out of this? That's the tough question at hand that I think is kind of a key point in this game right now. And so is going to be swinging 6. is going to be using this Love Mellow to draw another card, go to 10, get out of this, and is going to grab a Gavel right now. So honestly, in my opinion, this is one of those things. All the blockers are down. There's a ton of counter in hand. That Rush Usopp, if it does hit, might be able to help seal the game, but there's a little bit too many cards in the hand if you're, in my opinion. Does draw for turn, has 9 cards, I believe, in the hand. It was a Junimai. So I think they said that there was 11 or 10 cards in hand. I'm sorry, trying to think of my Japanese. Is going to go ahead and play that Marguerite, is going to draw one more, is going to play a Boodle. The Boodle is going to have that nice on KO effect if there is no bottom decking that happens. And honestly, looks like a very tough spot for the Nami. You would have loved to have that final life to be able to get potentially a final trigger, but the bricks in the hand came back to bite you in the end a little bit there with the Usopp, the Marguerite, and stuff like that. And we'll see how this is played out in the end. Is a very interesting spot though, because there are 2 blockers in this. You can't just go ahead with a Perfume Femur and go in at life, right? Because there is still 1 left. You got to be a little bit more calculated on what your swings are. You got to try to get all of the events used and try to get them to use this life, right? Take this life without committing all of their blockers. So still has 5 to work with. I don't think we know everything in the deck. We only know the bottom 4 cards because of the Nami search at the very beginning of the game, but is going to start off swinging 9, is going to get that Boodle, and that Boodle is going to get that on KO effect, going to, I believe, 7 cards in deck. It's either 8 or 7, which is actually very influential at this stage of the game. Is very, very close right now. Still 7 Dawn left on the Doflamingo side, 5 on the Nami side. Looks like we're maybe going to be playing down one of these characters. It could be the Crocodile or Trafalgar Law that could come down in this game. We know that those are options that are played sometimes. That 2K Crocodile does rest a 2-cost or less, so probably not the one that would be played. It'd be that Trafalgar Law, returning a 4-cost or lower character to the owner's hand. You could bring back your Sengoku, right? Bring back that 1 character and then go ahead and get that Marguerite, but is going to be using that Trafalgar Law to bring himself back, as because of the character limit on the field. Forgot about that. And the blocker goes away, so he's going to now be swinging 7 at lead, and so used up a bit of Dawn there. Only has 2 Dawn left. Is maybe going to sit comfortably as this rubber band goes to about 5 or 6 cards left, and uses the Nami counter to get out of that 7K swing with 8. Only has 3 more swings left in this one. Gonna be really interesting. I am on the edge of my seat right now as a big Nami fan. Is maybe swinging 8, is going to end up swinging 8 with this Weevil. And so that Nami, or that boa swung earlier. Yes, that Dawn should be on the bow. Yeah, not malicious, not intentional, definitely an accident. Is going to be swinging 8 at this Nami. And so I would say, honestly, this is a very tough spot, because you know that you have 2 5s coming in. It's going to be an Impel Down All-Stars. Going to go to 3. What does he draw? He draws a White Snake. The White Snake is going to be able to get him to survive in the turn. That's going to be able to get him to, I believe, 2 cards left. Or I'm sorry, he's got 3 cards left now at this point. He's got 3 cards, and he's going to go in. He's going to play the Sanji Spiel off. He's going to go to 1, and with the Marguerite, is going to be able to draw and deck out in this one. Nami is going to collect the win in what is usually, I would say, an unfavorable matchup. Excellent showcase by the Nami. It was very scary, especially when all of those came on field and you had a bunch of the bricks in hand, but played to his outs. And definitely, you know, the Impel Down the All-Stars did eventually help him, but overall in his life, not very great life. You had one Impel Down All-Stars, you had one Desert Spada, but everything else, you know, you had a Marguerite blocker, you had a Kaya in there. I can't remember exactly what the other life was, but all in all, a pretty fair game, I would say, in general. The Doflamingo did have plenty of opportunity to swarm the board early and get plenty of effectiveness with the cards in the hand, but Nami playing that so well. I was a little worried about all the white snakes that they played in that one turn, using 6 Dawn for 3 white snakes, but it put the Doflamingo in such an awkward spot in there and really maximized the amount of efficiency of the Nami. An excellent game. I loved that game as a Nami fan, and let's check out some deck lists. So we don't have the actual lists from this battle as they're not made public yet, as the tournament is still live right now. Ooh, new card reveal, I think, in OP10. Interesting. But this was a high placing Doflamingo from the Miyagi tournament last week in the OP09 format, so probably very similar in a lot of aspects. Pretty typical to what we see in Doflamingo lists. A lot of people running a list like this. It's very effective not only in OP09 but also 8.5. We saw Jackson Huang or Clyde TCG win the online regional that happened recently, or Treasure Cup or whatever it was called. This list basically able to be played in the format right now if you're in the West. Very good list. No question about that. Very good leader, but just didn't find it in this one against the Nami. Now, this is pretty close to the list that the Nami was running. I think the only difference in this list is that the Nami that we watched either played 2 Marguerites or 2 Boodles in favor of a single Rush Usopp. So if you're all the Nami fans in the channel, this list is for you, and honestly pretty typical to what we see for Nami's, right? I think especially with the Boodle, I think Boodle is very interesting. We've seen this card kind of be more of a mainstay in the OP09 format with the Namis. Is really nice for that on KO effect. To put the card in, or take the top card to the trash, is very nice, especially with, you know, like Doflamingo for bouncing back characters, right? Or bottom decking specific characters. They could choose this card instead of your precious Kaya. So I think that's one of the big reasons why people love the Boodles in the decks right now, and has pretty much most of the other sauce that you see in this deck with the Gavels, the Pilafs. Very interesting in my opinion. Discarding the Pilafs did not prioritize the Pilafs as much as I thought they would, and I think a lot could be learned from that game if you're a Nami fan like myself. Got pretty lucky at the end with the Impel Down All-Stars, but I think all in all, again, it was a pretty fair game because, well, Nami is a lot of triggers, as you see, and so having 2 triggers in your life is actually pretty average, I think, for this deck. But that's going to be all for this one. I'm going to go ahead and edit this so then you guys can watch this first thing in the morning. We're going to be doing the other videos or other matches in this tournament as time goes on, right, in the coming days, so make sure you check back here. Again, thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you want more commentary in the tournament, and I hope to see you in the next one.